Welcome to the debrief, everyone. Actor and comedian Bill Cosby has lost his case before an intermediate appeals court. In a 94-page opinion, a panel of 3 Pennsylvania Superior Court judges denied Cosby's 8 grounds for appeal on a 3 to 10-year sentence. A jury convicted Cosby of aggravated indecent assault. Cosby claimed testimony in a civil suit where he admitted using date rape drugs was improperly used in his criminal case. He also argued that witnesses who saw so-called other bad acts should not have been allowed to testify about those acts at his trial. The mid-level appeals court rejected those and other arguments by Cosby, so his conviction stands. Let's go straight to attorneys Linda Kenny-Bodden and Byron Brown for some quick reaction to this. Byron, usually I sit here and complain when prosecutors lump all of a defendant's other bad acts into a trial involving different acts. Here, the appeals court found that all the accusations had enough in common, that everything was properly thrown in against Cosby.
Yeah, and I think it was the right decision. I mean, the acts that he performed were obviously the most unpleasant acts, and the judge did the right thing by allowing these women's testimony to be heard, and then also Cosby's own testimony from the civil suit in. Part of that was based upon Cosby opening the door himself, but I agree with the court 100%.
Linda, what do you think? Do you agree with the appeals court on this, or do you think Cosby should appeal this further?
Well, he's going to appeal it further, but I kind of agree. The intermediary court found that there's a unique sexual assault playbook. Say that fast 5 times. I didn't know we were doing Sandusky today because I didn't know there was a playbook here, but they found that there was enough likenesses. He was a star. He plied them with intoxicants. He raped them when they were semi-conscious. They trusted them, and he targeted women who were younger and more fragile than he.
And if there's some nexus in the evidence, then that's when these other bad acts pieces can come into a puzzle. Bottom line, we're going to continue to watch that story. Also, a hearing for accused Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz did take place today after being delayed yesterday. Cruz faces 17 counts of murder, plus other charges related to the Florida attack on Valentine's Day 2018. Cruz's attorneys accused the Broward Sheriff's Office of failing to turn over files related to its ongoing investigation of the case. The defense also accused the state of trying to push the case through so quickly that the defendant would be deprived of his constitutional right to effective counsel.
The state goes on in their email and they say, our goal is to proceed to trial as quickly as possible. And that's the stark contrast between the state and their goal to go to trial as quickly as possible and the defense and our goal to have this case done right. We have been getting items that have been generated closer to the incident date, but we've been getting them late. So we filed D99 because the court said if I'm made aware of it, I'm gonna have them in here. We filed a motion to compel, and what we were compelling was, number one, is for Detective Curcio to provide another supplementary report indicating what he's been doing. We know, based on the state supplement discovery, that on October 16, 2019, Detective Curcio took 2 statements from 2 witnesses. So he has been continuously investigating this case, but we have not been getting any update of what that investigation is.
Yesterday, the defense filed a nearly 50-page complaint in writing about that detective, and on the same day, the detective handed over a mountain of paperwork. The defense says without access to documents, it just cannot properly prepare for a trial scheduled for late January, less than 2 months away.
And this is all against the backdrop of the court's sua sponte order setting us for trial in January 27th. And the state's consistently saying, we are ready for trial. We're ready for trial. We want, as they said, this to go as quickly as possible. Yet, since that trial order came down, there have been 9 supplement discoveries by the state. There have been 44 new A-listed witnesses from the state, and numerous items in discovery that have been generated back in February and March of 2018 that we are getting, and items we still don't have. So we put this court on notice, and I'm asking the court to grant .05 to have 30-day updates by BSO, by Detective Curcio, of what is going on.
An attorney for the sheriff's department said the court had no legal right to insert itself into the way law enforcement conducts an investigation or prepares its reports, and further complained that the defense is asking for things it basically already has. Here are just a couple of examples.
On number 3, the defense again listed this as additional discovery. This was an amended crime scene report. The 3 prior crime scene reports were already provided to them. This was an amended crime scene report to correct an error that one of our employees made in writing his report.
What is Scrivener's error?
There was an error on duplicating bullets that were impounded. The state's amended discovery in regards to search warrants. Defense counsel obtained a return of those warrants, and then they asked where the actual warrants, and the state provided them. That's not BSO holding any evidence. And then going at number 6, again, these are more hard drives, and this is all information and documents that were already in existence. The BSO action report that is also listed in number 1, I mean, they could have gotten that off the Sun Sentinel. There's other emails, BSO call signs, school diagrams. That's information that the state attorney's office is gathering or Detective Curcio is gathering to prepare for trial, but it's not substantive as regards to any police reports that we violated a court order.
The judge noted that the defense paperwork didn't ask for anything specific. It was just a complaint without a legal demand for action called a prayer for relief. Here is that conversation.
I mean, D109 doesn't ask me to do anything. It just is a note. It's a note putting this court on notice of certain things and alleging the court's inaction and general unwillingness to require law enforcement to promptly fulfill their obligations. But it doesn't, at the end, there's no prayer for relief. It's just putting the court on notice.
Correct. We did not do it as a rule of show cause. The court said, if I'm made aware of it, so we felt that the best thing for us to do is make you aware of it.
Okay.
And any authority that should come, it's a circuit court order. These are not circuit court suggestions. These are orders, and the orders say that these reports need to be turned over forthwith, and those orders have been consistent and throughout the case. Perfect example, the roster, we've been trying to figure out through deposition and our own discovery, who's where and where they were in what classroom. We requested a roster and we got it, which means that BSO had it and we didn't get it turned over until it was requested. I don't think that we should be getting our discovery from the Sun Sentinel. We should be getting our discovery from the state and from the agency that's investigating the case.
The defense getting another shot in there. The judge, though, ultimately decided that the sheriff's office did not violate the previous court order for discovery. The defense notes that most death penalty trials in Florida involve more than 4 years of preparation, not 2 years like this one. Let's go back to attorneys Byron Brown and Linda Kenny-Bodden. Linda, the defense says the average death penalty case involves 52 months of preparation there. Here, in this case, we're talking 23 months from the shooting to the trial. Is that a fair trial?
And that could be with one victim that it involves that period of time, having been in Florida for a death penalty case. Look, everybody knows that state and police do not turn over reports. That's been the subject of almost every single investigation you have all over the United States. Just turn them all over and we won't have this. I, as a prosecutor, always had a complete open file. My cops were in. They had to give me all the reports and I gave them to the defense. Just do it.
Byron Brown, the judge says keep this case on track. Is the defense quibbling over small stuff here as the prosecution and the sheriff's office claims?
Well, it could be. It's hard to say because they didn't ask for a prayer for relief. It's unclear whether the evidence that they're seeking is really germane or relevant to the issues that are going to be tried. You got to think that it is, but you're talking about a huge event that occurred with tons of witnesses, obviously something that this police department probably hasn't dealt with on this scale before. So trying to do it all within a 23-month period, I think is too ambitious. To the defense point, some additional time to get the discovery and facts is probably the right thing to do.
And trial is going to be underway now for a Florida man accused of shooting and killing an unarmed man out of jealousy. Delano DeMercy is the defendant. James D'Angelo Peoples is the victim. Authorities say a woman named Darnisha McCrae was pregnant with DeMercy's child while she was dating Peoples. DeMercy's first case ended with a mistrial after he argued the unarmed peoples attacked him and that he fired in self-defense. Prosecutors say text messages between DeMercy and his pregnant ex-girlfriend prove, however, the killing was premeditated.
1 month before he shoots James Peoples twice at a gas station on Atlantic and Congress, he tells Darnisha, tell him to bring his gun because I'll put a bullet through his head. A few days later, about a week later, November 14th, you'll see a text message from the defendant to Miss McCrae. If I can't have you, no one will. I ain't got nothing to lose. I will end anyone you are with. The defendant texts Darnisha again. If you think I'll let you be with him, you don't know me well. I'm not the only one after him. It's only a matter of time until we find him and his kid. I don't care. I just want to kill Mr. Peoples, and then you can be with anyone you want. How about you bring him to a park and see if it's a game? We're out here. 2 days later, he texts Miss McCrae again. I found where Mr. Peoples lives. There's going to be a lot of blood tonight. I am never going to let you be in a relationship. He texts another person. He says, I'm in the shores. I've got my strap or I've got my gun so we can handle that. I'm trying to kill that fool tonight.
The defense says those text messages were just drama in that relationship and have very little to do with why the defendant shot the victim, as the defense says, in self-defense.
He never meant to kill Mr. Peoples when he entered as he approached that gas station. But Peoples approached him. The back door was locked. You'll hear again, Mr. DeMercy will testify, you'll hear about everything that went into the thought process about fearing and having fear that Mr. Peoples was going to harm him. And he felt that Mr. Peoples was armed at the time and fired. And now Mr. Peoples is dead. Your decision here to decide if the state proves you beyond reasonable doubt murder or whether or not my client, Mr. DeMercy, acted in self-defense. You will hear about Florida Stand Your Ground law. You'll be instructed on that. He acted in conformity with Florida law when he, unfortunately, felt it necessary to shoot Mr. Peoples.
And still ahead tonight, updates from the Arizona trial of a man accused of shooting a police officer in the face. That officer made famous on the hit show Live PD. Plus, key testimony meant to sway the jury toward either life in prison or the death penalty for a man convicted of asking two others to murder his wife. Those cases in just a moment.
I'm Dan Abrams, and this is the Law&Crime Network.
His body just went boom.
She did it!
We've been covering 2 trials of course.
The only 24/7 network with expert legal analysis and gavel-to-gavel live trial coverage.
He kissed me goodbye on the cheek. That was the last time we saw him.
From high-profile cases to the most compelling local trials.
You didn't expect her. Let me finish.
We cover the most interesting and important legal news going on across the country.
A verdict in the case of an Ohio woman who took the stand and admitted she shot and killed her military husband.
And our multi-platform brand is resonating. From syndication.
With more, we're joined by Law&Crime Network host Jesse Weber.
To our expert analysis.
With me now is Rachel Stockman, editor-in-chief for Law&Crime Network.
This former head prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, and host of Law&Crime Network, Bob Bianchi.
On Monday, the Law&Crime Network covering the trial live.
Let's get to the top legal stories of the day with Jesse Weber, attorney and anchor for the Law&Crime Network. So good morning, Jesse.
With dozens of places to watch, we already have tens of millions of minutes viewed per month. And our viewers and readers are engaged, with more than 30,000 comments per month on the site, a bustling chat room, and an average watch time of 30 minutes.
Womanizer, that's fine. It doesn't make me guilty of solicitation of capital murder.
This is Law&Crime.
We got a lot of fascinating cases, as we always do, gavel-to-gavel coverage.
In the fastest growing genre in America, we are uniquely positioned to dominate. This is Law&Crime.
Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
If any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Our son Arjun was born with cystic fibrosis. CF is a genetic disease that shortens lives.
When the foundation was founded in 1955, children with CF rarely lived long enough to attend kindergarten. Today, thanks to the foundation's groundbreaking research, advocacy, and care, some people with CF are attending college, getting married, and starting families. We've made amazing progress, but until a cure is found for all people with CF, we will not stop. Help us add tomorrows. Visit cff.org today.
Matthew. I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. And what you say really does matter to me.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me, and they make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for preparing me for what's ahead.
Talk. They hear you.
To the death penalty trial of convicted murderer Mark Sievers. A Florida jury found Sievers guilty of killing his wife, Dr. Teresa Sievers, by promising two other men money in return for the killing. One of the two men testified for the state that he helped kill Dr. Sievers with a hammer. The other was convicted by a separate jury. Now prosecutors are asking this jury to put to death the husband convicted of orchestrating the crime. The victim's mother testified today.
My Teresa was murdered in the most brutal, unimaginable way. It was the weekend that Teresa's 8 and 11-year-old daughters would become motherless. The weekend our family would lose a life force that we, her friends and patients, and anyone fortunate enough to meet her, relied upon her to lift us up, teach us how to heal ourselves, and challenge us to be the best people we could be. My daughter Teresa was an extraordinary woman, a powerful force determined to change the world. She had enormous compassion for all people, especially the neglected and the abandoned. And that passion could be seen in the way she lived her life. I used to call her my modern-day Mother Teresa. I always knew she would grow up to do great things, and she did.
The defense called Mark Sievers' mother to talk about what the defendant is like as a father.
He was very hands-on. He was the stay-at-home dad. He also worked at the Teresa's office, managed that and so forth. But as the father, he would get involved in all the girls' activities. He always taught them how, and so did Teresa, about virtues and what's right and what's wrong, and to talk about feelings. And he was really very good at that, and very loving.
Have you visited him since he's been incarcerated?
Every week, sometimes twice a week, and then every Monday.
So you love your son?
Very much. He's very caring, very kind, very thoughtful, always wanting to make sure you're okay. And
if your son was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, would you continue to support him?
Of course. He's my baby. He's my son, and I would always be there for him.
The jury is now deciding whether Mark Sievers should be executed or spend life in prison. Let's head now finally to testimony in the trial of an Arizona man accused of shooting a live PD police officer in the face. Ramon Bueno is the defendant. Trooper James Casey, the victim who survived the attack. Casey pulled over a vehicle for having dark tinted windows, and authorities say one of the occupants, Bueno, started shooting from the back seat directly behind the driver. Authorities caught Bueno and co-defendant Danny Vargas after a week-long manhunt. Vargas pleaded guilty and is serving a 15-year sentence. The lead detective on the case believes Bueno shaved his goatee in that week after the shooting, but before the arrest. That's why the lead detective thinks Trooper Casey identified co-defendant Danny Vargas and not Bueno as the trigger man.
This is a photographic lineup with Ramon Bueno in the number 2 position.
And Trooper Casey on October 9th, when the hospital indicated it was the person in the number 1 position?
Yes.
And he actually said that was the shooter, correct?
Yes.
Was it significant to the investigation that there was a stark difference in physical appearance between Danny Vargas and Ramon Bueno?
Yes, ma'am.
Significant to the investigation that Ramon Bueno had a goatee on the night of the shooting,
Yes.
and Danny Vargas did not?
Correct.
And was it significant to the investigation that James Casey had described the shooter as being much older than the other individuals in the car?
Yes.
Is he much older than the other individuals in the car?
Yes, he is.
Was he around the age of 38 on the night of the shooting?
Yes.
And was everyone else in the car much younger?
Yes.
Police arrested Bueno after that week-long manhunt and first took him to the hospital for back and head injuries. Then he was interrogated.
Where were you the morning of, it was Wednesday morning, October 8th? So it was roughly about a week ago. Okay.
I can honestly not answer that.
You can't answer me?
Not that I'm not going to talk, but I'm not going to talk, but not that I'm saying that I'm not going to answer you, but I wasn't there. 3 people in the back. Officers shot. But only 2 got hit.
So 3 people, you're saying 3 people in the back?
You guys telling me on the news.
Okay.
Saying the officers opened fire back and shot. Don't you think everybody in the back could have got shot?
In the back could have got shot, yeah, I agree with you on that.
2 got shot.
Right. So you're saying there were only 2 people back there is what you're saying?
I'm saying I'm being blamed and put there.
Bueno repeats that 2 people who were sitting in the back seat of the suspect vehicle were shot. The lead investigator says Bueno was trying to take himself out of the equation of actually being in that vehicle.
I mean, whether you guys believe me or not, whether I have an alibi or not. I actually do, but it's still, you know what I mean?
See, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ramon.
I went camping.
Okay.
Okay. I went to the casino. That's the only way over there. It's passing Miami. Is the reservation over there. We didn't go to the casino all the time. We were actually camping.
Just to clarify, there's no confusion. Wednesday, the early morning, you're camping out there on the res.
Before that.
Okay. Tuesday?
No, it was before that. It won't add up.
Fair to say it.
That first, the first day we got there, we went to the casino before we went to camping. I have, I don't know if you guys got my wallet. There's the membership card in there, and they can tell you what actually is a casino.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But,
so that's where you were Thursday. Or Friday, actually, because you leave up. And then...
When I came back, it was either before, during, or after.
The detective says that as the interrogation went on, Bueno couldn't keep his story straight.
My dumb for protecting people. I literally wasn't there.
So
What did he say to you there, detective?
Said it was my dumb and I wasn't there.
Did he say he's protecting people?
Yes.
He said even if you have your mind made up, like you said, my dumb wasn't there?
Correct. What's going to happen, Ramon, when your DNA comes back inside that vehicle?
No.
What did you ask him, detective? It's a little muffled.
I asked him what's going to happen when his DNA comes back inside the vehicle.
And what was his response?
He said, I'm...
That's one way to put it, I guess. Let's turn back now to Linda and Byron here one last time. Byron, I don't know, do you agree with the defendant in his own words or not?
Do I agree with what he's saying?
Do you agree that he's in trouble, basically?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. 100%. Yeah, not using the colorful language I think he's using, but 100%. I think he's just grasping at straws at this point in time, trying to save himself. But I think the writing's on the wall. He was in the car. His answers don't make sense. I'm sure his alibi doesn't check out. So really what he's doing is he's giving them ammunition to prove what he's saying is wrong, and he's not helping his case.
Linda Kenny Bodden, earlier on in this case, we had some issues about where everybody was sitting, where the shots were fired. Do you think the state's hit the point where they've overcome some of those questions at this point?
Yes, I do, because with Danny Vargas, they showed that he was shot in the same location that a bullet hole would have entered the seat, also entered him, and also with Mr. Bueno is not very bueno in terms of his answers because his computer is inside the car. And also, if you listen to him, you can tell that he really is one tough guy. He knows what the situation is. I think that doesn't help him. Although I would note one really quick thing, Aaron. If there's a mistaken identification here, which there's not because this is not that kind of case, you'd have to put our guest Byron in that lineup, bald, goatee, and tatted and inked up.
Well, you know, I wasn't trying to put him in the defendant's seat here, and we'll leave that for another day. Byron Brown, Linda Kenny Bodden, thanks a lot for being here on The Debrief. That's all the time we have. The network will be live starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The Debrief back at 5 o'clock Eastern, right here on Law&Crime.
My name is Sam White. About a year ago, I had a heart transplant. My life was saved on the last day that I was supposed to be on this planet. I don't know who my donor was, but that person saved my life. And now I know what a miracle feels like. It feels terrific. Having a new heart's given me time to spend more time with my loved ones, watching them grow up. That new heart gave me a new mission in life, and that is to get others to sign up to be organ and tissue donors. The most common thing I hear when I ask people why they haven't signed up is, I don't know, I just haven't thought about it. Well, why don't you think about it? Think about the life you might save or the life you might enhance. Over 130 million people have already signed up to be an organ, eye, or tissue donor. They're men and women, all ages, all races, and they have one thing in common. They want to save lives. Please sign up to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You don't want to miss your chance to save a life.
Hey everyone, I'm Jesse Weber, and this is legal news you can use. The internet can be a complicated place for many different reasons, but one of the questions that seems to always confuse people is, can I use a photo or image that I find online? Let's discuss. Okay, so first, copyrights. Copyrights are all the exclusive rights that someone has in an original work that he or she created, including images. How they're distributed, seen, copied, and otherwise used is up to the copyright owner. Generally, if you created the image, you automatically own the copyright in it. Pretty cool, right? What this means is that you usually need the permission of the copyright owner before using the image. However, ask yourself the following. Are you planning to use the image sparingly, or maybe only a portion of it? Are you not going to make money off of it? Are you using it in a news reporting, educational, or scholarly context that benefits the public? Are you completely changing the image so it's unrecognizable? Are you transforming the meaning of the image, like using it in a parody? Is it impossible to get the permission of the copyright owner? Well, if your answer is yes to some or all of these questions, then you may be able to use it without permission, but that's not always guaranteed. Also, sometimes images no longer are copyright protected, meaning they're in the public domain, or the owner grants something called a Creative Commons license, allowing others to freely use the image in specific ways. There are websites that offer royalty-free stock images as well. You should look into all that too. Copyrights aside, if the image features a logo or slogan, or a person, particularly a celebrity, then other issues could come into play as well, including trademark, privacy, and right of publicity laws. I told you, complicated. So best practice is to get permission or give credit whenever you can before using an image, particularly on social media. For more legal news you can use, go to lawandcrime.com.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Do you know the signs of a brain aneurysm? The worst headache of your life? Pain behind one eye? Dizziness or blurry vision? Don't ignore it. Seek immediate emergency care. The Lisa Calagrassi Foundation. Learn more at lisafoundation.org.